Welcome to the Sadara Whiteboard Series. I'm Courtney Bell, a Security Operations Engineer at Sadara, and I'm here to talk to you about security awareness and how to use your employees to help prevent and detect incidents in your organization. So why is security awareness important when we have all of these appliances and software and hardware to protect us? Well, ultimately, attacks come down to a set of human eyes and a keyboard and a mouse. And if a user is well educated, and if they're trained well and they're astute, they can help prevent a security incident from ever happening or detect it. The truth is, security software and hardware will look for a really specific set of traits in malware. And humans are great pattern detectors. They can detect when something looks a little abnormal. So if you can train your users, you can use them as a last line of defense against an incident. Let's talk about the top 5 ways you can improve your security awareness program. The first is to evaluate the top threats against your organization. There are a few ways to do this. You can look at the threats that are pertinent to your industry. You can also do some kind of a gap analysis to check out where there are gaps in the knowledge and the security measures in your organization. And you can tailor your security awareness to those gaps. Something else you may want to consider is checking out gaps by department. For example, the security risks in an IT department may be very different from the security risks on the front line at point of sale. So tailoring your security awareness programs to each of those areas can help you get the most bang for your buck. Security awareness programs can also be tailored to your company's culture. For example, some company cultures enjoy a proliferation of things like memes to communicate, or posters, or websites, or games. Other organizations may need a more professional approach, and it may be more effective to have a formal training program. The second step I'd recommend in creating a security awareness program is to keep it continuous. At Sadara, we talk to many customers who have created a security program, but they involve it in their onboarding process. So people learn a lot about cybersecurity awareness right at the beginning of their employment and never again. That's not an approach that we recommend. We recommend keeping a cadence of security awareness training, both because it helps remind the users of what they're supposed to be looking for and what they're supposed to do in the event of an incident, and also because threats change. For example, ransomware is a newer but very prevalent threat. And if you have someone who started 10 years ago, they might not be aware of what ransomware is and how to protect against it. So we highly recommend keeping security awareness programs evergreen. One example of an evergreen continuous training method is to send phishing assessments to employees on a regular basis. When you send a phishing assessment, you can measure how many employees click on the link, how many employees respond, and you can train employees on how to look for suspicious links or content in phishing emails. And so when they see these emails on a regular basis, just small little chunks of information security training, they're more likely to recognize real malicious emails when they come in. My third tip for security awareness programs is to keep it manageable. I think we've all been through a training program that lasts all day long. You're sitting at your computer, and at the end of the day, you might not have absorbed as much as you would have in a different format. So it can often be helpful to involve users in the training process with something like a phishing assessment, doing them at least once a year or even smaller components more often. It keeps cybersecurity concerns in the forefront of people's minds. And if they're used to looking out for suspicious emails, for example, then a phishing assessment, a regular phishing assessment, can help them recognize a real phishing email when it comes in. My fourth tip for security awareness programs is to get buy-in. This is critical to the success of a cybersecurity awareness program because the most secure organizations have a security culture Everyone is involved in the process of security. It's not just one security administrator. And any cultural change has to come from the top. That means C-level executives need to be on board and hopefully involved in your security awareness program. It doesn't mean that that's the only source of support that you get, though. It can also be helpful to have security evangelists or advocates at all different levels of the organization and in different departments so that they can advocate for the changes that you're looking to make and the security culture that you're looking to build. In addition, people who work in individual departments have a better understanding of the cultural and work and productivity needs of the people in those departments, and they can be a great source of communication when you're building your security program. My last tip for building a cybersecurity awareness program is to measure it. You can't improve or fix what you can't measure, and so it's important to have metrics around cybersecurity awareness programs. There are a few ways to approach this. For example, you can measure the involvement in the actual training. You can measure how many people are attending the class. You can measure how many people clicked on a phishing link and whether that's improved since you started your cybersecurity program. Or, in a more general sense, you can also measure the number of security incidents and the severity of those incidents since you started your cybersecurity program. It's important to note that awareness can actually lead to an increase in detection and prevention of incidents. So you may actually see an uptick in incident detection because people notice the abnormal things that you've trained them to look for. It's not a bad metric. There are lots of ways to measure cybersecurity awareness programs, both in the sense of what you've done and what the effects are. If you're looking to take next steps in your cybersecurity awareness program, either by checking out your gaps in knowledge and your security stance, or sending out a phishing assessment to measure how your employees will do, or just improving your cybersecurity program in general, or adhering to compliance, check us out at sidarasecurity.com.